Okay, today is Friday, March the 28th, 2025. I'm here with Reverend Dr. Mendle Adams, and I'm Vicki Adams Wernicke. And Dad is going to tell about uh, he and Charlene's adventure in Washington, D.C. this week. Right?
Right. This was one of the one of the few times that I went to Washington. I only did one thing, and I had we had thought that we could go see the um, African American Museum,
Right?
the Dr. King Memorial. We wanted to go to the American Indian Museum, and my by the time I got through this episode, my back was just killing me on
Oh,
my right side, my lower back. And apparently it had to do with me standing so long,
while
uh,
you were waiting in line to Supreme Court.
waiting in line and on those
Mhm.
marble floors. That must have been what it was because my back was bad that we get in and out of the taxi. It was just excruciating pain. And and I was not able to do my exercise for 2 days. So anyhow, so
Yep.
I saw the doctor yesterday, got that taken care of. But anyhow, Charlene had made uh, some time ago, probably about a year ago, she saw this lottery that was set up for getting tickets to be observers at the Supreme Court. And she said, that would be fun, wouldn't it? And I said, yes, it would be fun. So she applied for it. Well, they sent her a date and said we'd won and sent her a date for 3 tickets. We'd hoped to be able to get you to go with us. And I don't remember what happened that we weren't able to do that. But then they changed the date in order to accommodate our schedule. And I had it confused in my mind about what the case was. And I said, whatever the case is, I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be something that'll be nice to see.
Right.
And so to make a short story long, that's what we did. And I didn't know what was going to be discussed. We got there, and I had failed to take my uh, uh, hearing aid
Oh no.
enhancer off. And so I went through and they said, oh, you've got to go
Oh,
back and put this in. So they put me back, and Charlene then saved me a seat and was on the very last row of the seat. And they gave me one of their hearing aid enhancers that worked beautifully. It was
oh,
excellent.
nice.
And so I took notes. Charlene had a pad of paper and a pencil, and I scribbled notes, and they're really scribbled. And I couldn't always tell who was speaking because they would speak, and we had guards that were standing between us and the Supreme Court. So at times, the person that would be speaking would be behind one of the guards where they were. And so I had to do the best I could, and I couldn't remember. I couldn't for the life of me remember Barrett's full name.
Oh, oh.
It's a hyphenated name, and I couldn't remember her name. And they started out with, it sounded like they started out asking Thomas to
Yes.
weigh in first, since he would be the eldest on their
Well,
one.
he's the most senior.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Right.
The
Right.
most senior on that. But what I noticed about him was he he was always going like this.
Oh, really?
Everybody else was very composed, and just he was just I mean constantly, Vicky, just like I said, either his hemorrhoids are bothering him, or he already has made up his mind how he's going to rule on this, and he's just trying to get through this as best he can. That's what I think really happened. Um, so what we found out was that in the process of making the case, that this was the case about the gerrymandering that was done in Louisiana,
Hmm.
and they had uh, the courts, as I understand it, I'm not sure that the circuit court, the local court had ruled that the map was wrong. It was unconstitutional due to um, Article 2 of the 14th Amendment, I think is what
Right,
they were saying. I think
right,
that's what they were saying.
right,
Well, that was the one that had to do with that you can't make these based solely upon race.
right,
And in the process, this particular area was ruled by the local court to be unconstitutional. And so they were ordered to draw a new map.
right,
And so the plaintiffs in the case drew a map and presented it to them, and they said, "No, we're not going to do that. We're going to go by the old map." And they and the state then appealed that to the appellate court, and they appealed it to the appellate court. And I'm not sure exactly what the situation was, but one of the cases was they appealed it 2 times. They were ruled by the appellate court 2 times that it was unconstitutional.
right,
The one time it had to do with it was unconstitutional because of Article 2 of the 14th Amendment, which was the race thing. But the Supreme Court had already gutted uh, the Civil Rights Act, and so they it was appealed again, and this time the appeal was based upon some white people that were appealing that their constitutional amendment, their constitutional rights had been violated because they had ruled to give the blacks this other thing. We said, well, okay. So then the question was on whether this was done because of race, which is now allowed according to the Supreme Court ruling.
mhm,
And they threw around 7% and 20% and said, that 7% was not allowed, but 20% was, or what. It was just goofy. And then it came out that the people that were presenting it had the map had said in a public statement before the House of Representatives in Louisiana, had said that the reason why they were doing this was to protect the seat for Congressman Mike
Johnson.
Johnson,
Oh,
who's the Speaker of the
speaker.
House.
Oh,
Now, you see what that's all about?
oh my gosh.
The deal was then they got in this argument, and the argument went back and forth. Well, was this because of race, or was this because of politics? Politics is allowed, race is not allowed, and they were batting this thing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Well,
Do me a favor, real quick. Take your arm off the desk because you're making the computer jump around. Sorry,
I'm sorry.
sorry. Oh,
And,
how
and,
interesting.
and anyhow, so this was the argument that they put up, and I was trying to figure out why there was such a distinct move. The move was that the liberals, the three beautiful women that are on there, uh, they kept boring in on the racial thing.
Mhm.
This was done having to do with race and so forth. They kept boring in on that. And Jackson talked about how this is the Delta area, where going clear back to the days of after the Civil War, the blacks were forced to live in that area, and therefore that's why they lived there, and that was the area that they were talking about on whether or not they were appropriately uh, represented in the force. Well, then the state comes up and say, well, it doesn't have to do with race. It has to do with culture. It has to do with education. these people tend to be more religious than the other people. I mean, all the things
What the hell?
they kept dancing around us. No one wanted to say because we're a bunch of damn
Racist.
racist.
Oh my God.
They
Oh my
didn't
God.
want to say that. And all the time, oh, Thomas is
Thomas is just,
bobbing and weaving. I mean, literally bobbing and weaving. He didn't have much to say, but what little bit he did say had to do with, well, this wasn't made on race, it was made on politics. And you're allowed to use politics to
yeah,
draw those lines. You're allowed
right.
to do that. The state is allowed to do that. That's not outlawed. And so, oh my God. But it is obvious to me. And then I read on the way on the airplane coming back, I read an article that was written by Guardian, and they had done a breakdown of that to try to explain what had happened.
Oh, good.
The thought occurred to me, is it possible to get a transcript of what those arguments are?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can. I'll send you the link to the
Okay, if you could
website.
do that,
You
if you
can
could
get
do
a.
that, because
You
I'd
can get
like to
a.
get that before I talk about it, uh, because my notes are very sketchy, and I just wrote about how I interpreted what was being
Right.
said and how it was being said, as opposed to the arguments that were being made.
Yeah, you can get. There's a transcript and the audio recording. You can have. You can listen to the audio recording again too.
Uh-huh.
So I'll send you that link.
Okay, that's good. So I felt it was very worthwhile. I
Mhm.
felt like my education had been severely limited before that, and I felt like I really was able to understand what was going on. I think the fact that the little bit of time that I spent in the legislative process and it was able to see how arguments are made in that
Right.
helped me to be able to follow that. Charlene had a little difficulty following because she couldn't tell who was saying what and
Right.
why they were saying these things. See,
Right.
and the why came out loud and clear. The Guardian thing helped to see how that was done because the five in the majority. I don't know. I felt at times that uh, Roberts was speaking from a more balanced view.
Mhm.
He didn't seem to be taking either side. He was asking pointed questions, but not taking either side. But Barrett was really honing in on this whole thing about, well, everybody knows that even if you even if you know that the ruling of the courts is wrong, you have to follow what the courts are saying.
Yeah.
And Jackson pointed out that seven judges had ruled that the state had violated the Constitution, and that therefore it was seemed like it was a pretty shut
That should be
case.
pretty
You know,
telling.
they'll say,
Yeah.
well, okay, and then Alito said, well, even if the judge rules something that is wrong, then you have to decide whether or not you're going to obey it. And I thought, oh dear, this sounds like the Trumpian kind of approach
Yep.
about just saying you can disregard the courts. It's my understanding that if the court rules something you disagree with, then you have an appeal process, but
Yes.
once it goes through the appeal process, you don't have any option. The court rules, and that's the way it is.
So that's why you probably heard them mention a case called Marbury versus Madison throughout the
Yes.
argument. So that's like from the 1800s. It's like a really long time ago. And that was the whole question was, is the government going to abide by Supreme Court rulings?
Mm-hmm.
And Jefferson did. I mean, they did. I mean, I think it was Jefferson who was the president, disagreed with the opinion of the court, but he followed it because Supreme Court has no enforcement authority
Right.
to to enforce the decisions they made. It's based on the other two branches saying, okay, they've said it, and that's how it is. And that's what the concern with Trump is he's saying, I don't have to abide by what the judges say. And he's
After
saying,
all, I own the Supreme Court anyhow. So
well, because he says, these are foreign policy issues, and a just federal judge doesn't have the authority to say
yeah.
what we do. Well, yeah, federal judge does, district judge does. And so that's the whole concern about the
Well,
idea.
that came in, and then Alito brought it up, and the way Alito, if I understood him correctly, the way he was on side he was coming up on was that the person who had been ruled against by the court, if they decided that the court was wrong, that they didn't have to abide by what the
Right,
court had said.
right.
And I thought that is really curious for a Supreme Court
Uh-huh.
justice to make that argument.
Yep,
So that means that his rulings
that's right.
could be
Could be,
disregarded as well.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So Planned Parenthood could continue to do all the abortions they want to do and just say, okay, we're going to do them anyhow.
Right, right. But then you'd have the problem with the state court could actually have criminal charges,
Yeah,
and then that's that. Then apparently in Texas they have charged a midwife with attempted murder because she tried to help someone
yes.
get abortions, or at least offered advice.
Offered offered her pills
Yeah.
or told her where she could get them. So anyhow, I thought there was just a
Interesting.
lot of stuff that behind the scenes was working that I thought was influencing that. And then another thing that is serendipitous, I think is the right term. The book that we are studying this month that we're going to be discussing Monday. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Is Longstreet,
Okay.
and it is how a Confederate general, Longstreet, the Confederate general who defied the South, and it is about this Confederate General Longstreet who was a very successful, uh, very successful soldier and one of the main generals to Robert E. Lee in the Confederacy. Robert E. Lee called him his war horse, and how he, after the Civil War, he was converted and came back to Louisiana
Oh.
and took the leadership of the black militia that was enforcing the Reconstruction, and how he changes. And this is about his conversion. And he was a friend, a roommate with Grant when he was in West Point before the Civil War, and became, when Grant was married after the Civil War, this guy was his best man.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And it talks about
Wow.
how he enforced that. And the same arguments over the exact same area that the Supreme Court thing was on that we sat in, it was over that area.
Oh,
It was
wow.
that. And you're talking about you're
That's
talking
gonna
about
be that's gonna
for
be a
this.
cool
I
discussion
mean,
in your book
my
club.
God. And I thought of, and then I was, while I was showering, I thought I, I was thinking back on when I preached that sermon on and I thought I had said the best judges money can buy, and instead it was the finest judges money can buy. Mike Mills and uh, Charles Prater both gave me heck about that because they thought I was being too hard on the judges.
come on. I'm sure those two contributed to several judges' campaigns over the years. Oh, that's funny.
And I thought of that. I thought, okay, if I'm going to be presenting that, I'm going to use that as the title of my presentation.
That's
The
funny.
best judges money can buy.
So, did the Guardian have an opinion about how the justices might have been
They think it's
falling?
going to, it all depends on whether on what Roberts does.
Uh,
But it seemed like that at least four of the people were pretty well in line to go with the state, go with the defendants in this case, and give them a pass on that to protect his seat,
right,
to
right.
protect his seat. And they'll say, well, okay, you can use race if you're protecting someone's political seat.
That's crazy.
Isn't that amazing?
So, because I had understood the case, because I remember hearing about it when the Supreme Court granted the cert to review it.
Uh-huh.
And I know it was like two cases combined, and I recall, but I may be recalling it inaccurately, that it was they had the gerrymandering, the map was made up where there was only one district that was predominantly black voters. And they were ordered by the federal court to go back. No, you need to make two districts
Yes.
that are predominantly because of the population.
Yes.
And that's what the state was defying all the
Yes.
time, right?
That's it. Yes.
So then did the state finally do the right thing? And
No.
so they only did the one district. And so
They had the election on the one district, and then they appealed it twice to the appellate in order to slow it down. And then they kicked it, and they lost both times at that, and so they kicked it up to the Supreme Court.
so then what are the white defendants complaining about then? What were the plaintiffs? I mean,
They were saying that their civil rights were being violated because they wanted to dilute uh, their vote.
their vote. So they were objecting to the court's order saying you need to create another
Yes,
black district.
yes.
That's racist to have a district that's just made up of black people. Well,
I have it blocked, and everybody knows it. White's just not racist. I mean, that's just the way it is.
just the way it is. That's the way it's always been. It's our culture. It's our culture. Can you believe it? Oh my gosh, how interesting.
And all that coming together like that, see,
That's cool.
for me at that particular time, and it's amazing. And some of the exact same arguments that were made about representation and so forth that eventually destroyed the Reconstruction, and they're still living with the results of that being destroyed
Amazing.
in that area, in all the South at least.
So let me ask you some mundane questions, just
Yeah.
because people, family might be interested. So what was it like waiting in line and getting into the Supreme
Oh
Court?
Lordy,
And that was a long wait.
it was raining,
Oh,
and the taxi put us out at the wrong place. They put us out where the demonstrators were.
oh
So we
no.
had to walk all the way around. It was raining, and we walked around. And so uh, uh, the umbrella was not big enough to really give me any protection. And so I was sprinkled wet. And then you went in and you just stood in line and stood in line and was wait, wait, wait. And no one telling you what to, they told you where to stand, but that was it. They didn't give you any instructions about what to expect.
Oh,
And so we were standing in line, and uh, they did. People got talking, and someone would come out and shush them every once in a while. But
That's weird because I mean,
and I got to the point where that back was just hurting me so much, and I was leaning against the wall, and I was hot, and we'd read the news or the weather report, and it said it was going to be cold, so I'd wore my thermals,
oh no.
and then I had my overcoat, and I had the lining in my overcoat, and I was just melting and running down my shoes, and I was afraid I was going to pass out like I did there at the
At church?
Plymouth a couple
Yeah.
years ago, and so Charlene, bless her heart, she was worried about me,
Right, right.
afraid I was
So
going
there
to
was
pass
like
out.
no place to, and what time did you get in
There
line?
was no place to sit. There was no place to sit. There was no place that was just it.
What time did
But
you get in line?
I'm sorry.
What time did you get in line?
I'm trying to think. I think we were about 2 hours in that one line.
Holy
I
shit,
think that's
Dad.
right.
Oh my God.
So it was pretty
That's brutal.
brutal. Um, and so and you couldn't talk. You weren't supposed to talk. People were talking, and they'd come out and tell them to be quiet. And of course, they were trying to do business down the halls. You don't
Wow.
understand that. Um, and then we went in, and we did not take any pictures. We were so focused on what we were doing, we didn't
Right,
take pictures. And we had planned on taking pictures of ourselves on the steps and all that.
right.
We didn't do it.
Well,
We
it's
didn't even think about it until we were
raining.
gone away from it.
Right.
And we went to the gift shop, which was funny. Uh, didn't buy much. You could spend a lot of money at the
Oh, I
gift
bet
shop.
you could. I bet you
Oh,
could.
geez.
Well,
Uh,
so you got on the last row, so you must have there was a lot of people that were
a
in
lot of
line.
people, yes, yeah.
Did
And there
everybody?
were probably about, I would say, 40 or 50 people that were sworn in as members
Oh yeah,
of
of the
the
bar.
bar
Yeah,
as part of that as well. And
yeah.
that was interesting to see how that was done.
You know,
Uh,
as a member of the Supreme Court, I can I supposedly I've never done it, but I supposedly can go and watch the argument and sit in the section for attorneys.
uh-huh.
Where if you're a member of I don't know if I'd have to get in the lottery to get in or not, but
Probably not.
I've
There,
I've
there
often
were there were a lot of attorneys that were there um, supporting the people that
right.
were being
Yeah,
sworn in. You could tell that's
yeah,
why they were there.
yeah.
And but there were a lot of people there. I don't know how many. I would say there were probably 50 people in the lineup that we were in. I
Wow,
would say probably that was it. Yeah.
wow.
So it was well worth it.
Good.
It was, and we figured it cost us $2,000. I said, we can't afford very many of those of those.
Right.
I'll
But
put it that way.
hey, that's like a once in a lifetime. That's
Well,
cool.
that's exactly right. And that it came at such a propitious time, such a time
Yes,
that I
exactly.
was very interested in what was going on, and it has bearing upon what's happened nationally.
Hmm.
And uh, it wasn't chump change. It was about something that was
Very significant.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, very significant.
That is very cool. That is very cool. Wow. Well, I wish I'd been able to be there with you because that would have been
I sure
fun.
do too.
But I probably would have been really in pain too from standing for so long. Did anybody bring like those little stools that I could sit on?
I didn't see anybody
They
doing
probably
that.
weren't allowed to. And
I didn't see anybody doing that. They was like I say. I even had that what they call it, the Roger that I wear around
uh-huh.
my neck, and
Uh-huh.
I can give that to Charlene. Turn on, give it to Charlene, and then when she's away from me, she can talk to me, and I can hear her.
Right.
And
Right.
so we take advantage of that when we're in that situation.
Yeah.
And she can't hear me, but I can hear her if she's away from me for oh 100 feet or so, I
Right.
could still hear her. And so I had to give that up. And but they were very kind. Everybody treated me, as the old man that I am.
Good. Well, that's very cool, Dad. Very
Yeah,
cool. I'm
yeah.
so glad you got to do that.
It was a fun deal.
Didn't you and Mom go tour the Supreme Court one time when you were in DC or when she, no, I thought you did. I thought,
Oh, I'd
oh,
never been to Supreme Court.
okay. I've never been in the building either. I've been in DC many times.
It is
Been in there.
extraordinary. It is
I need to,
wonderful.
I need to do
It's
that.
laid out very well, and you can and I read some of the things that was on the wall about uh, Governor Taft
Oh
and
yeah.
how he'd been on the Supreme Court and
Yep.
how he'd stacked the court. He had appointed, I forget how many it was. I thought they said 5 people he had
Oh
appointed
my
to the court,
gosh.
and then he was on the court
Oh my
and
gosh.
became the
The Chief Justice, right?
Chief Justice,
Oh my
and he
God.
had these people that he'd appointed that were on the court with him. Now you talk about power,
Whoa. Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah.
and that's why his grandson had such a tough time of it when the Republicans gave him a hard time when he was governor here,
Yeah.
because they remember they really didn't like him at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
Wow.
come out, so the Andy's come out for the doing away with the death penalty
Oh,
very
that's
strongly.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm getting you know, text messages and emails from the um Dr. Amy campaign running
Oh
for
yeah.
governor. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it is.
And the other guy, I can't remember his name now, that ran for president. It's like, how does he have connections to Ohio? Did he move to Ohio just to run for governor?
He claims that he was raised in Ohio. That's what he claims. And they're running an ad showing him lollygagging, literally lollygagging over Trump. And at one point, he even kisses Trump on the cheek.
Oh shit.
And I was doing the exercise room next to a guy that was watching Fox, and they showed that ad, and I said, "Did he just kiss the president?" He said, "Yeah, he did." I said, "Oh boy." I said, "You want him to be your governor?"
Oh, that's crazy. That's
But then they
crazy.
got Yost is running against him.
Oh, oh,
And
right.
because,
Of course. Yeah.
there you go. You want cyanide or arsenic.
Right. Exactly. Or firing squad. Exactly. Well,
So
I'm so glad we were able to do this, Dad, because this is
I
that.
thank you. I just felt like I needed to do it while it was fresh in my
Yeah,
mind.
I love it. I love it. Well, I
And
need to go.
it was a marvelous experience.
That is so
And
cool.
I would recommend anybody to do it that could. Um,
Yeah, I saw on the
it's marvelous.
website after Charlene had told me about it. I saw on the website about the lottery. I had no idea that they were doing that. It's really a good idea because I've
Well,
heard people standing in line for hours just to
you
get.
know that she won a lottery back years ago and won a two uh, two lots of land over here in Shaker and had a house built on it.
Oh my
And
gosh!
her and Joy lived in that house for while Joy was in grade school. And so she said, I just prayed about it and I won the lottery. And I said, and she keeps playing the lottery.
Good for her. Good for
Oh, I
her.
said, okay. I
There
said,
you
you won this lottery, but it cost me $2,000 for the percentage of
go. Exactly.
it. It
Exactly.
was worthwhile. So,
Well, I need to cut this short because
sure.
I need to go pick up Sarah from work early because her car's in the shop. So,
Okay. All right.
um, but thank you. I will
Thank you,
post
sweetheart.
this on YouTube and share it
And
with
if
the
you
family.
want to do the letters and so forth,
Yeah.
I still haven't done the thing about sending the letters to you.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk
Bye
to
bye.
you later. All right.
Love you.
I
Tell
love you
Sarah I
too.
said hi.
I will. We're having a game night tomorrow night too. So Peter and
You're
Caitlin,
gonna do what?
we're having the three kids are coming over tomorrow night. We're going to have a game night, and
Aha.
so that'll be fun.
Cool.
So,
Okay. Bye
all
bye.
right.
Love you.
I love you too.
Bye
Bye.
bye.